There are 3 universal truths of swimming. The first one, as all of you should know, is that
that's not exactly true.
The first thing you have to pay attention to is
drag. Exactly. All this is slow. This is slowing you down everywhere.
One of the most important things is also you
point your toes, folks.
After 25 years of swimming, starting businesses and being a coach, what are the secrets of swimming?
This is what's going to keep you motivated. The fastest way to improve in swimming is body position. This is the fundamental way that we move through the water. There are 2 ways that we can swim faster. The first is by decreasing drag. The second is by increasing propulsion. To illustrate this point, we're going to draw a swimmer right there. That's the head position. And then we have our body. Now this is a good body position. You can see the swimmer is right at the surface of the water. A bad body position would be the head is above the surface, and then the rest of the body is going to be like this. Now this right here is called displacement. This is all drag right here. So Coach Leo, how do we improve our body position so that our legs aren't dragging so deep in the water?
So there are 2 ways in which we can actually improve our body position, one of which is actually our head. Our head acts like a steering wheel when we swim. So it's very, very important that your head, first of all, is in a correct position. So if your head is too high up or too far down, this will kind of move your legs up and down depending on where your head is. So the most important thing is making sure your head is in the correct position, and this will help you flatten out your body position in the water. And the second thing is having a very strong and continuous kick. If your legs are not doing much, if your legs are kind of just dragging behind you, this can also cause your hips and legs to sink. So it's very important that first of all our head's in the right space and making sure our kick is also being used.
Yep, and also you want to make sure when it comes to your head position, your eyes are what dictate that. So the easiest way to fix this is simply looking down. A big mistake a lot of swimmers make is they're looking about 10, 20 meters in front, or worse, you're looking at the wall on the other end of the pool. Guys, I have some good news for you. The wall isn't going anywhere, so you don't need to look for it. Keep your eyes down. What that's going to do, it's going to lift your legs so they're higher in the water, and as a result, your overall body position is going to be improved because you're taking up less space in the water. So if you see this part right here, this is a massive displacement. When we look down and we bring our legs up, this is going to be a lot smaller. And remember what I said in the very beginning, there are only 2 ways to swim faster. And the first and most important is decreasing drag. Coach Leo, how can we improve our body position further once we've already fixed our head position?
So once you've got your head in the right position, your legs are kicking, one of the most important things is also your core engagement. What you do not want to be doing is spaghetti noodling around the pool. It is very, very important that when we swim, our core stays nice and tight. And what you don't want to do is swim with your core just, you don't want to be tense when you swim. You want to be thinking of your body, and you want to try and keep it as long as you can. You almost want to imagine that you're being pulled in both directions when you are swimming. So imagine there is somebody pulling your legs one way and then somebody pulling your arms the other way. You want to try and extend your body as long as you can possibly make it on a water surface, and that will also help you elevate your body position when you swim.
So what are some drills that swimmers can do to make sure they're maintaining this body position? Obviously, we want to keep our eyes looking down. What do you do with your arms if you're just doing a drill?
So one of the simplest things to do, I mean, there's different variations of this, but you can do something called number 11, which I'm sure you've heard Faris say before. So just extending your arms out in front of you in your shoulder width position. There we go, as Faris has beautifully demonstrated. So just having your arms out in front of you and just focusing on keeping your body as flat as you can possibly make it on the water surface. You can also do this with your arms by your side. You can do something called a Superman position, where you can have your arm out in front of you and one arm by your side. But different variations are the same thing, but the most important thing is keeping your body as flat as you can make it on the water surface. Things such as fins are also a great idea if you want to put your fins on. That will also help you elevate your body position, but at the same time, you don't want to become too reliant on these things.
You want to imagine your body is moving through a very narrow cylinder. If you remember, I kept on drawing this right here. This is your displacement. The fastest swimmers in the world are moving through a very small space. And so the smaller you can make your body, the faster you go. So when you're in the number 11 and your arms are extended, obviously you're keeping your eyes down, the rest of your body is going to follow. And like Coach Leo was saying, it's as if you have people pulling you on either direction. So you want to imagine that even your kick is small and narrow. A big mistake a lot of swimmers make is they have too big of a kick and their legs will come out of the water. You don't want your feet really coming out of the water that much. You want to keep a very small, short, fast, compact kick, which will fit through this cylinder that we've just drawn. So you can imagine your hands, your fingertips are what lead everything. The rest of your body follows through that cylinder, and then your legs also have to be compact and narrow, or else you're not going to be able to fit through the cylinder. You might think that, well, if I have a bigger kick, I'm going to get more propulsion. This is incorrect. That's only true to a certain point. As soon as you get larger than the width of your body's natural displacement of the water, you're going to create more drag than you're going to have in additional propulsion. So you want to make sure that your kick is small, narrow, pointing your toes, keeping your legs relatively straight, and making sure that you don't have your kick come outside of this cylinder range that your body naturally has. And that's one of the keys to not only having a good body position, but also having a good kick as well. Now that we've had a perfect body position, eyes are looking down, feet are compact, we've been able to decrease our drag, now we want to increase our propulsion. What's one way we can do that without even taking a stroke? How do we move through the water in this streamlined position more effectively while maintaining a decrease in drag?
Kick.
Exactly. So what should a fast kick look like? How do we make a fast kick so that way we have an engine that really feeds our swimming?
I think the most important thing about kick is making sure your legs stay relaxed. I think a lot of people try and put too much emphasis on how hard you're actually kicking, I think, which is one of the biggest mistakes. When you kick, it is so important to try and keep your legs as relaxed as possible and focus on frequency rather than the actual power and the strength of your kicks. So first of all, keeping your legs relaxed and your ankles relaxed, most importantly, is a very, very big, important thing. And second, in my opinion, is just making sure your kick is coming from your hips. One of the most common mistakes I see and I come across is swimmers trying to bend their knees and trying to kick from their knees, which is just simply not going to work. So number one, keep your legs nice and relaxed. And number two, try and make sure your kick always comes from your hips, which is right there. So now that we have a perfect body position, our legs are kicking, our head's in a perfect position, what is the next step?
Obviously, we think we can work on our pull, but that's not exactly true. Before we can work on our pull, we have to understand how we're structuring our workouts so that way we get the most out of our time in the water. Now we're going to talk Workout 101. What that really means is how you spend your time moving through the water, lap by lap. Instead of swimming 84 laps in a row, you could do a workout like this. Now, if you don't understand all the different things written on the board, we're gonna break them down one by one. But it's really important to understand why we would do this type of training instead of just swimming continuously. Now, the major reason for doing that is we can train different parts of our body, different parts of our swimming, different strokes, different distances, intervals, speeds, and as a result, that's gonna make us a more accomplished swimmer, and we're gonna get more out of it more quickly. Coach Leo, is there any other reason why you might wanna break up a workout and do some variety as opposed to just swimming continuously?
I think one of the biggest reasons is, especially if you're training for a triathlon or a competition, as Faris mentioned, doing 84 laps continuously will only allow you to swim at a certain pace. But breaking things down and doing less volume and doing your set in, for example, 50s or 100s will allow you to swim quicker for those distances. So for example, if you are doing 4 100s, the quickest you can possibly swim for a 400 meter continuous swim would be, let's say, 8 minutes. But if you break things down into 4 100s, now you can swim at a 145 pace, and this will result in you practicing higher speeds, which will then allow you to swim quicker in races. So breaking things down within your session can help you and will help you achieve faster times when you are training.
And it keeps it more interesting. It engages your mind, and it's a lot more interesting to do a workout like this as opposed to just swimming continuously. So let's break it down. Let's say we don't even know what 1 times 200 free even means. Coach Leo, let's break it down piece by piece so everyone watching knows exactly what every element means. Let's start with this one right here. What are we doing here?
Freestyle. So front crawl, freestyle, depending where you are from, we are doing front crawl, freestyle.
Yeah. And so we know what stroke we're doing. Now, how far are we going to swim freestyle?
200 meters.
And how many times are we going to do that?
We're doing it times 1.
1 time. So we did that in reverse order because the most important thing that you actually need to know is what are you actually going to swim? Then you need to know how far you're going to swim it, and then how many times are you actually going to do it. So when we do a structured workout, this would be the number of repetitions that we're doing. This is the distance that we're doing, and this is the stroke that we're doing. The only thing that's not written here on the board is the interval. And so the way that works, let's say this was on the 3-minute interval. What that basically means is the amount of swimming time plus resting time is going to take 3 minutes. Now, because we're only doing 1 repetition, the interval doesn't really matter as much. But let's say on this next set, we're going 6 times 50 kick. So we're gonna go 50 meters kick 6 times. There's no interval. Here it would be helpful to have an interval. If we're doing a rest-based interval, we would just say, okay, you do the 50, and then you take 15 seconds rest before starting the next one. Typically, in more competitive swimming and more training, we're gonna follow an interval, so we're actually gonna write a number. So let's say it's 1 minute. So let's say the 50 kick takes you 50 seconds. Coach Leo, how much rest are we gonna have?
So if you're completing the 50s in 50 seconds, you're going off a minute. This means you're gonna have 10 seconds rest before you start your next one.
Exactly. And so this set in total will take 6 minutes. It's not gonna take 6 times 50 seconds. It's gonna take the interval times the number of repetitions. Let's do this one more time. Let's say we're doing these 4 50s at the 1 minute and 10 second. Coach Leo, I come in on 47 seconds on the first 50. What happens next?
So 47 seconds, and the way I like to think about it is 110 is 70 seconds. So 70 take away 47 is
23 seconds of rest.
There we go.
And then you start the next one. So this set, 4 50s at 110, is gonna take 4 minutes and 40 seconds in total. Now, what do we call this entire grouping? If this is our full workout, this grouping right here, that is 700 meters, what is this whole thing called?
So this part of the session will be called the warm-up.
This is the warm-up. So we're gonna write that right here. This is the warm-up. And typically in a workout, you're actually gonna have 3 main parts of it. There are more, but generally you're gonna have 3. You're gonna have a warm-up, then the second part here, which is called our main set. This is our main set. And then the third part is gonna be our cool down. Now, if you notice, we actually have 2 sets. This is like a bonus for you guys at home. We have a post main set right here before the cool down. So this right here is our cool down, and we have something called a post main set. You might also have a preset, which would go before the main set. So let's say we were to insert another set to get us ready for the main set. In this case, it would be called our preset. And every workout will be different, but fundamentally the most important thing is making sure there is a progression and a purpose behind every single workout. Now, Coach Leo, let's take a look at the main set. What do you think is maybe not so obvious to someone when they see these 3 sets? Is that it? Is that the only thing they're gonna do? They just do the 4 100s pull, the 1 300 kick, and the IM, and then they go to the post main set? Is that how it works?
Okay, so if we take a look to the left side of the set, you'll see a bracket, and Coach Faris has very beautifully demonstrated the free time sign, which means once you have done the first set, so once you've done your 4 100 pull, once you've done your 300 kick and your 825s IM, you're going to repeat this whole set 3 times, which will then be the end of your main set.
Correct. And we didn't even talk about what is freestyle. We know freestyle. We know what kick is. What is IM? We never even answered that question. I bet someone watching this is like, wait, what is IM?
It stands for individual medley, which is the combination of 4 strokes, which goes in an order of butterfly, followed by backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle.
And if you're maybe not as familiar with these strokes, that's fine, but it's always good to incorporate a variety of training. That way you can work different muscles and energy systems, and that will make you a not only well-rounded swimmer, but it'll improve your primary stroke as well. So let's say you just want to swim freestyle, you don't really care about swimming anything else. By incorporating a little bit of individual medley, of kicking, of pulling, this will make you a better swimmer for a number of different reasons. Let's talk about pull. What does pull mean?
So pulling is usually, I mean, there's different variations of pulling, but when I think of pull, I think of a pull buoy between your legs, and I think of paddles. Again, that's optional, but pulling usually refers to when you are just swimming without using your legs and just your arm.
So you're focused on your upper body. The kick, we're focused on our lower body. What about the IM here again? How would we do, what is the difference between these 450 IM and these 825 IM? Do you swim like, you know, a few strokes of butterfly, then backstroke, all within 25 meters? How does this work versus this?
Again, there's different variations, but generally if you are doing 450s, you'll do a 50 of each stroke, meaning you do a 50 fly followed by 50 back, 50 breaststroke, and a 50 freestyle. If you are doing 825s IM, again, there's different variations, but the way I would do it is you do 225s of butterfly followed by 225s of backstroke, breaststroke, and then freestyle. Again, you can do it 1 by 1, so you can do a 25 of fly, back, breast, and freestyle, and do that twice to make it 8 in total. Again, different variations, but completely up to you.
Now, another variation that we can add to this workout is by layering in equipment. Now, this is one of the most fun ways to make a workout not only go faster, but also get more out of it. So typically, we'll use equipment at various points of the workout. We were just talking about pull. Coach Leo mentioned a few pieces of equipment. We had a pull buoy. What else did you mention?
Paddles.
We got paddles. What else?
We have, I mean, if you're doing kick, fins could be an option.
We got fins for the kick sets, right? That could be something.
Yep.
Now let's say we wanted to add another piece of equipment, even to the pull. What's something we can do with a pull buoy and paddles, and we could do 100 with?
One of my favorite pieces of equipment of all time, which is a snorkel.
Great, that's a snorkel. So a few different pieces of equipment can be layered in. And maybe on this set here, we had fins. On this kick set, we don't have fins, or vice versa. Actually, looking at a 300 kick, maybe we want to throw fins on for that, and maybe we don't need them in the warm-up. And then finally, the next variation, which is maybe one of the most interesting and the most neglected ways that swimmers can get faster, but they don't typically do, is adding variation in intensity, in speed. Because you could just go through and swim this workout, but how fast should you swim? How much effort should you have? How much rest should you get between each of the repetitions? So when we take a look at our post set over here, you might see this and read, okay, 350s freestyle, and then 100, repeat twice, and then wrap it up, take a shower, and go home and eat some bagels. No, that is not correct. What we're going to do is we're going to descend these 350s, which means we get faster on each one. That is one variation. You might ascend a set. So that means you're actually getting slower on each repetition. You might build or decelerate, or maybe you're gonna best average. These are all different intensities that can make the workout more engaging, but also more impactful because you're putting more intensity and more intentionality behind every single set. Now to take things one step further, because that's what we like to do here, after these 350s descend, we're gonna go 100 freestyle fast. And so this is a much different than the 200 freestyle we did in the warm-up. In the warm-up, we're just getting started, we're getting the body acclimated, we're getting our blood flowing. When we get to the end, the body's already been through a lot. We've already engaged every single muscle group and energy system. Now we're gonna build up with these 350s descend, and then on the last 100, we are going to put our body to the test and empty the tank, as they say, by going a 100 fast. And we're gonna do that twice through. Coach Leo, at the end of this, are we done to just wrap it up and go take a shower, eat our bagels?
No, but as we mentioned earlier on, we have to always look over to the left side of the set, and as we can see, we have 2 times through. So once we've done 2 sets, then we can move on to the final part of our set, which is the cool down, and that would be 650s to finish up our set.
And this 650s might be the most important part of the entire workout, because I always say it, the way you finish a workout is how you start the next workout. We're gonna show you some drills that you're familiar with, some that you've never heard of before, and we're gonna walk you through exactly how to execute them so that way you can swim faster and smarter than ever before. The first one is called fist drill. If you're not familiar, you're gonna put your hand in a fist, and you're really gonna focus on pulling the water with not just your hand, but also your forearm and entire arm, because we know that the water is 800 times more dense than air. So we can leverage more water, we're going to swim faster. There are only 2 ways to get faster in swimming. Number 1 is you can decrease drag, and number 2, you can increase propulsion. Fist drill is one of my favorite ways to do it because you don't need any equipment to get started. So when you're swimming, you can incorporate the fist drill in your warm-up. So you warm up normal, your hands are open, and then maybe you'll do 100 meters or 200 meters, maybe even 50 meters, just in the fist drill. You ball up your hand in a fist, and you really focus on engaging your entire arm to pull as much water as possible. Now, a big mistake swimmers make is they try and just punch the water. You're not having a fight with the water. Be peaceful with the water. Place your hand in the water just as you would with your fingertips, only you're with a fist. Now, a few different ways that you can vary this drill, so that way you're not just using your fists, are through a progression. And my favorite progression is to gradually add your fingers each 25 meters. So let's say we were gonna do 8 25s of freestyle in our fist drill. The first 2 25s are going to be locked out in a fist. The second 2 25s, we're gonna add 1 finger on each hand. You're poking through the water, you're still reaching extension, you're getting that early vertical forearm, and you're catching the water. The second 2 25s, you're gonna add another finger. So now you have 2 fingers that you're poking through the water and you're pulling through. Then you're gonna add 3 fingers, and on the final 2 25s, you're gonna put it all together and you're gonna swim with open hands. Coach Leo, what is the next step? After you've mastered the fist drill and you're swimming with not just your full hand, how could you make your hand any bigger? To stay on the fist drill for a second, how can we get our hand even bigger?
So we could use paddles, which would be a very good start. Increase the surface area of your hand. It'll be slightly more challenging to get into your high elbow position, but using paddles will help you increase your feel for the water and just help you get stronger in the water. So paddles are a very good piece of equipment to use for this drill.
Another piece of equipment that you can use is a snorkel, because now you don't have to worry about breathing, Instead, you can just focus on keeping your eyes down and really focus on what is happening with the catch. And Coach Leo, if you're a more beginner swimmer and maybe you're struggling to make any forward progress in a fist drill, how can you make this drill a little bit easier?
So you could put fins on, which will help you, again, focus more on the upper half of your body, and the fins will take away the emphasis from your legs. And I think what I wanted to add on to the snorkel as well, you can actually pay attention to what your arms are doing, because your head is down and you're looking down at the bottom of the pool. You can actually look at what your arm and the motion your arm is going through. So yeah, snorkel, and if you want to bring things down and make things a little bit easier, definitely put fins on to make this drill easier. So
amazing. So once you've nailed the fist drill, we really recommend starting with the fist drill, because regardless of your swimming level, if you're just getting started or you're an Olympic level athlete trying to break the world record, everyone can benefit from doing the fist drill. So once you've nailed this, Coach Leo, what's another one that we might be able to do?
Okay, so the next one, which is one of my all-time favorites, is called long dog. And the reason it's one of my favorites is because it's actually very, very simple and easy to do. So it revolves around the two key positions of freestyle, which is one, your number 11 position, and then two, which is your Superman position. And all long dog requires you to do is to go from one position to the other. So you start off by simply having your arms out in front of you, you pull through to your Superman position, so you have full extension at the front, and then you have full extension at the back of your stroke, and then you bring your arm back forward into your number 11, ready to initiate the next stroke. Once again, there's different variations. You can use different pieces of equipment, but this drill is very, very good if you're looking to maximize your distance per stroke, because once again, our goal is to try and pull as much water as we can. So the more water we can send behind us, the more forward we are going to go. So again, full extension at the front, number 11 position, pulling the water with your high elbow catch all the way through to the back end of your pole, and then bringing your arm back forward will really help you maximize your DPS.
Great. What kind of equipment should someone start with? If they're just getting started with this, how do they do it?
So the easiest variation would be a snorkel and fins. Again, that way you can take away the focus from your breathing. You can just focus on what your arms are doing. Again, it might take you a couple of 25s to get used to this drill, and again, just get used to the motion which you are going through. So yeah, snorkel and fins would be the easiest variation. To be completely honest, the breathing on this drill is not a focus. So even if you do want to breathe and you take a snorkel off, you usually breathe up to take your breath. So snorkel and fins, if you want to really dial in on your high elbow catch and the pulling, and if you want to make things a little bit harder, you can take your snorkel off and then eventually build up to taking your fins off as well, which will then require to use your legs a little bit more. This drill, you see world-class swimmers doing it, you see people who are just starting to do it, which I think just shows how good of a drill this is. Huge range of ability, but as long as you are able to maintain a flat body position when you swim and you can float, I think long dog is good to go.
So what's the difference between long dog and catch-up drill?
So there is one very simple difference. On long dog, you do not actually bring your arm out of the water. On long dog, you pull all the way through to the back end of your pull, and then you bring your arm back through the water before starting the next stroke. So there's another variation which is called catch-up, so number 11 catch-up, which you can also do, which is a very similar version to this. But on that drill, you actually focus on a recovery as well, which makes things a little bit more complicated. So on long dog, there's no recovery. You just bring your arm back through the water, back into your number 11, ready to start the next stroke.
Excellent. I probably have the most important question here. What's the difference between long dog and long cat? Let's move on to the final drill, which has several variations depending on your skill level, and it could be the most impactful. We save the best for last. It's called single arm freestyle. Coach Leo, can you give us the most basic version of single arm freestyle?
So single arm freestyle, again, as far as you just mentioned, there's different variations, but I think the easiest would be with your snorkel and fins, and you actually keep one arm extended out in front of you. So that would be the most simple, the easiest version of this drill. Again, if you're feeling a little bit more advanced, you can put your arm by your side and you can actually take your snorkel off. But the simplest way of doing this is to keep one arm extended, snorkel on, fins on, and you're ready to go.
Amazing. And actually, the snorkel can add some complexity. So if you're just getting started, just use your fins, have one arm extended, both arms extended, and you take these strokes with one arm. That way you can really focus on the pull. Remember, this is pulling 101. So we're really focused on driving your fingertips down to the bottom of the pool, getting that early vertical forearm, that early catch position, and then making sure you finish at the end of the stroke. Once you've nailed that with one arm up, well, both arms up, you can start to go into single arm freestyle with one arm at your side. Now this is more complicated because it's going to require a lot more core strength and stability and rotational momentum to be able to do this drill effectively. But the way it works is pretty simple to normal swimming. You're just going to have one arm. So your opposite arm is going to be stuck to your side. It's now part of your torso, and you got to make sure you have full rotation to both sides as you do this drill only swimming with one arm. Now, Coach Leo, how could you break up this drill into a workout? For example, do you just swim the entire workout in single arm freestyle, or what's an example set? And I'll write it down, or you can write it down.
Okay, so in my opinion, drills should definitely be done before you go into your main set. So I think if you are going to practice any of these, I would throw these in at the beginning of your set. So we'll start with our workout. We'll do, for example, our warm up. We'll start with we'll go with 450s, and we are gonna do them as 25 drill, 25 swim with our fins on. So again, right as we start our set, we have some, again, we can make a choice. We can either work on our fish drill, long dog, or single arm. And like I said, the first 25 is gonna be one of these drills. So first, straight away, as soon as we start in the session, we have a technical point that we are focusing on, whether that's a high elbow catch or whether that's full extension in the front and the back on our long dog, and then followed by a 25 swim on the way back. So that will be 150. We repeat that 4 times. And again, this would be a great way to start the session because again, you are straight away practicing and jumping right into good habits, good skills, and good swimming.
Amazing. Now I want to use this single arm drill as an example. Let's try another set. So we're going to go 4 25s drill, and on this drill we're going to alternate. So on the first one we're going to take strokes only with our right arm, then the second one we're going to take strokes only with our left arm, and then we're going to repeat that 2 rounds through, and then we're going to go 150 free with both of our arms to put the stroke back together and really feel the pulling benefit and the rotational momentum that we've developed across all of these drills. And like Coach Leo was saying, all of this would be in the drill set or the warm-up set, at the end of the warm-up set. So that way we have our main set, which will happen after, and our body has been warmed up, our mechanics have been flushed out, and we're ready to activate on the main set. A big mistake a lot of swimmers make is they just jump right into the main set, or they don't do any of this technical work. You never build a good foundation of what a proper pull looks like, and then you start to train a lot of volume, and you start to do that on a not really efficient stroke. So instead, we want to make sure we're doing all this drill work early in the session, get the right muscle activation, and then boom, we hit the main set with the proper fundamentals, and that's how we're going to be a really fast swimmer. Have you ever seen someone move through the water so efficiently, it looks like they're not even trying? I'm going to show you exactly how to do this using less energy to be able to swim longer, faster than ever before. It comes down to one metric that I know you need to know if you're a loyal channel subscriber. Water is 800 times more dense than air. And because of this, if we want to swim effortlessly through the water, we have to reduce drag and increase propulsion because the water is so dense. So if we want to swim faster, we need to decrease drag. Coach Leo, can you illustrate us what a bad body position looks like that prevents people from swimming effortlessly? What does that look like?
So again, as Faris has just mentioned, water is 800 times more dense than air. So if you are moving through the water with your body, let's say this is your body, your feet are down here, your kick is huge, you're taking your pull, your arms are sinking, your arms are swinging, your head is down here, okay? Like I say, you are displacing a lot of water. So if you are moving forward and you are making yourself very big as you are moving through the water, it's gonna be very, very difficult for you to move through the water effortlessly.
Drag. Exactly. All of this is slow. This is slowing you down everywhere. So how do we get faster? What do we do about this?
So again, your goal is to try and make yourself as small as you can when you swim. So when you are doing anything, regardless of what stroke you are doing, your goal is to try and minimize the amount of resistance you are creating. So the way you improve this is by first of all thinking about your head position. Your head position and your head when you swim acts as a steering wheel. So if your head is all the way up here, this is going to cause your feet to sink right down. So the first thing you have to fix is first of all your head position. You have to make sure that your eyes are always looking down when you are swimming. The second thing, and probably most important, is your leg kick. If you are swimming and you find that your hips and your legs are sinking, the chances are you're not doing the right thing with your legs. Your kicking technique is wrong, or you're simply not kicking enough. So we always have to make sure that we have a nice continuous leg kick behind us, which will then also help us elevate our body position. Coach Faris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so the way you can improve your body position really starts with your head position, and that means your eyes are looking down. A lot of swimmers make the mistake of looking at the wall at the other end of the pool. Guys, the wall's not going anywhere. Keep your eyes down, it'll lift your hips, and like Coach Leo was saying, keep your kick small and compact, so that way your body is moving through the water narrow. Now here's the thing, let's say you have a great body position and a head position. We've taken care of the drag component, But what about actually pulling the water and really moving ourselves forward? We have 2 arms and we got to make sure we use them. So when it comes to the pull technique, Coach Leo, how do we make sure we are pulling the most water? Do we just make sure we slice our hands through the water, or do we just, what does the pull actually look like?
Okay, but the first thing you have to pay attention to is where your hand is facing and where your palm is facing when you are pulling the water. So for example, if you are initiating your pull and you notice that you're slicing through the water, so your pinky is entering the water first, your palm is facing out to the side, you are immediately sending the water in the wrong direction. So your goal is to pull as much water behind you as possible. So you want to pay attention to where your palm is facing. So if you want the water behind you, you want to make sure that the palm is also facing behind you, meaning you're sending the water back so then you can move forward. EVF, early vertical forearm.
What does that mean?
So our goal when we swim is to try and initiate a high elbow as early as we possibly can. So early vertical forearm as we are initiating our pull.
To summarize, if you want to have an efficient pull, it starts with the way your fingertips enter the water. You want to enter the water with your ring finger and middle finger about 1/2 meter in front of your shoulder. You're going to slide your hands into the water at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to reach as far as you can before initiating the pull, where your fingertips drop to the bottom of the pool, and that's where we initiate our early vertical forearm. Literally, the forearm is becoming vertical as early as possible, and that's why we get the name EVF. And as you pull and you enter the power phase, you are pulling with propulsive power behind you to move your body forward. You pull backwards so that way you can go forward. And that is how we maximize our pull. And if you can do that, you'll be moving through the water effortlessly. Now let's say you have a great pull, but what happens on the lower half of our body?
Having a great kick, not only is it going to help us improve our body position, but it's also going to help us move forward.
And we got to have a great kick to back us up. So this is really the engine of our swimming. This can make or break your ability to swim efficiently through the water. If you have an inefficient kick, it's going to mess everything else up. If you're swimming really, really fast, but your legs are dragging behind you, that's actually better than having a really inefficient kick that slows you down. Here's why. Your legs are the biggest muscles of your body. They use the most oxygen. They have the most blood flow. So if you use them inefficiently, it's really going to negatively impact everything, and you won't be effortlessly swimming through the water. It's going to be very difficult to move through the water, and that's why you got to have an efficient kick. Coach Leo, what does an efficient kick look like so that way you can swim effortlessly?
So an efficient kick would usually be relaxed. Your legs would be long. Like I say, if we see a swimmer with their legs and their hips sinking, usually their legs will be bent, and we always want to try and make sure that our legs stay nice and long coming from the hips. Of course, we want to make sure we are pointing our toes, relaxed ankles, and of course we want to make sure our kick is not too big, yet at the same time not too small. We want to find a balance between having a good size kick also.
Point your toes, folks. The biggest mistake I see swimmers make is not how they start the workout, but how they finish the workout. Because the way you finish a workout is how you start the next workout. And if you want to be efficient and swim through the water effortlessly, you need to practice a skill, a drill, call it whatever you want, silent swimming. Coach Leo, how would you describe silent swimming?
So silent swimming, I think, first of all, requires you to pay attention to the noise you are making when you're swimming. So once again, once you have finished your session, once you've done your main set, you've done your fast swimming, you've done your drills, finishing off a session with silent swimming and really paying attention to the noises you are making as your hand is entering, the noises you are making as you are kicking, the noises you are making as you are breathing is very, very important, because the chances are if you are slapping your hand into the water as you are entering, that's going to make a bunch of noise, especially underwater. So paying attention and being as silent as you can really help you become effortless.
I want you guys to think about silent swimming as more than just the sound that your fingertips make when they enter the water. I literally want you to use all of your senses. I want you to feel the water, smell the aroma of the chlorine. I want you to really listen using your ears. We have our smell. What else do we have?
We have our touch. We have our sight.
Sight. See what your hands look like when you touch the water. Hear. And finally, you need to taste the water. Now, I'm not telling you to drink the water, of course not, but be immersed in this environment, this beautiful thing that we call swimming.
Coach Faris, after 25 years of swimming, starting businesses and being a coach, what are the secrets of swimming?
Amazing. You have to know your why. Why are you swimming? Why are you going to the pool? Why are you training? Maybe you started out because your parents signed you up as a kid. Maybe you picked up swimming as an adult because your doctor told you you need to get in shape. Regardless of why you started swimming, if you lose sight of the thing that got you into swimming in the first place, you're not gonna be consistent and you're not gonna be able to follow the next secrets that I have on the board, and so none of this is gonna matter. So first and foremost, you have to know your why. Coach Leo, what is your why? Why do you swim? Why do you coach? What motivates you to come and do the thing day after day?
My why and my reason to why I do what I do is I love inspiring people. I love what I do because I love motivating people. I love teaching you guys how to swim. I love teaching you guys how to get better at what you guys are doing. So my why is inspiring.
And when it comes to you as an athlete, as a coach, regardless of what your background is, you need to recognize why are you doing what you do? Because if you don't remember this, on the days that you get tired, you don't feel like going to work out, you don't feel like getting up and doing the things that are difficult, this is what's gonna keep you motivated. So as long as you can stay consistent and motivated to your why, now we can move on to the true fundamentals of swimming faster.
Before we move on, Coach Faris, please tell us your why. Give us an example of what your why is.
As a swimmer, when I'm in the water, I feel completely weightless. I'm in my own world. I can disconnect. The world's problems just simply disappear and I am in my own element. And when I swim, that is the feeling that gives me the greatest joy, to be in the water, to be in this medium that is 800 times more dense than air. That is the thing that keeps me motivated to go into the pool, to coach, to create these videos, to help you guys find your purpose, to find ways that you can swim faster. That is why I do what I do.
So guys, there are 3 universal truths of swimming. The first one, as all of you should know, is that water is 800 times more dense than air. The second one is that the number one way to swim faster is to decrease drag as you are swimming. And finally, increase propulsion. As mentioned, because the water is so dense and when we are swimming, it is so difficult to move through the water, but the number one way to make swimming effortless is to simply decrease the amount of resistance and the amount of drag you are creating as you are swimming. The number one way to do that is to, of course, improve your body position. And the number one way to move forward and increase propulsion is to, of course, use your pull and improve your kicking.
So if you want to decrease drag, focus on having a great head position, keep your eyes on the bottom, get your hips up. And if you want to increase your propulsion, make sure you enter the water cleanly with your fingertips and initiate an early vertical forearm, so that way you're maximizing the surface area of which you're pulling the water with. You don't want to have your hand slice through the water like a noodle or a scissor. Instead, you want to grip the water and pull as if you have hands the size of dinner plates. Really grab the water and pull. And over the years, that's what I've noticed is the biggest difference between some of the fastest swimmers in the world and those who are just okay at swimming. It's how good their body position is, how high they ride in the water. Also, being able to increase your propulsion to the point that you can move effortlessly through the water and pull the most water. The fastest swimmers are able to move through the water with great propulsion. So regardless of how big or strong they are, they can move by other swimmers who might have more training. They've been swimming for longer, but they're not pulling the water as efficiently. And the fastest swimmers are able to engage the catch earlier and earlier and earlier in the stroke, so that way they can move through the water more quickly using less effort. Now, Coach Leo, the fourth secret here is something that you and I know very well because we're coaches and we're more competitive athletes. But what's something that a lot of swimmers, they kind of just, they don't understand, because they just go to the pool and they swim back and forth. They swim 100 laps, they call it a day, and they think they're confused why they're getting slower, why they're not getting any faster. And that's because they are not following
a good structured training plan. So guys, if you are out there and, as Faris just mentioned, you're just turning up to the pool, you haven't really got an idea of what you are doing, you're just doing continuous laps, thousands and thousands and thousands of meters of just continuous pointless swimming, you have to make sure you invest and look into getting a good training plan. Whether that's you training for a triathlon or being a competitive swimmer, it is very, very important that you are training at the correct intensities, doing the correct amount of volume, and pushing yourself the right way in training to make sure you are swimming fast and efficient.
And a training plan is just one of 3 pillars to swimming faster. We already talked a little bit about technique, that's one of them. Of course, having a training plan so that you know what you're doing, when you're doing it, is going to be the most efficient. And the third is accountability. That's what a coach can do. If you want to work with ourselves, make sure you check out the links below. But regardless of how you do it, you got to make sure you're following a training program that is specific and personalized to your goals. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. You're not using your time effectively in the water because you're just swimming back and forth, or you're doing some generic training plan that you found somewhere that's not going to be customized to exactly what you need to find success. Coach Leo, let's say you want to swim until you're 80 years old, you have no plans of competing, you just want to feel good in the water. Should I follow a training plan?
Absolutely, I think so. Again, even if you're not competing, if you're not looking to break any world records, I think it's still very, very important to follow a training plan, because even from a simple perspective of injury prevention, for example, you still have to make sure you are warming up correctly, you are getting your body to swim a certain amount of meters. And from an enjoyment perspective, it's still very important to follow a training plan, because just doing 3,000 meters of swimming is not going to be much fun. So breaking things down and following a plan which is going to push you in maybe different ways other than just going fast is just going to be a lot more fun, and is going to prevent you from a lifetime of injuries. So absolutely.
Now, if you've made it this far in the video, it means you're serious about improving your swimming. And one of the common features that I've noticed over 2.5 decades of swimming and coaching and interviewing some of the best swimmers in the world is, if you want to really improve, if you want to take it to the next level, regardless of you're swimming for life or you're trying to win Olympic gold, you have to be obsessed with not only swimming, but the process, the journey of learning. If I open up your YouTube feed, it should be all videos that I have created about how to swim faster, or other creators about how to improve your swimming, race analysis, technique, training, interviews. If your feed on social media is not reflective of someone who is absolutely obsessed with swimming, you are not going to reach the absolute pinnacle of what is possible, because someone else who is more obsessed than you will. And so if you're really serious, if you made it to this point in the video and you're not already subscribed, what are you doing, folks? Subscribe. Surround yourself in that environment of people who are going to help you level up. And that is the single most important thing that I've learned over all the years of swimming. You have to absolutely love it. You have to be all about your why, because your why is what's going to allow you to be obsessed, and everything that happens in the middle is a result of those two things.
Coach Faris, I love the fact that you mentioned the word process. I think many people are so focused on the outcome. Everybody wants to be great. Everybody wants to be the best swimmer. Everybody wants to improve their stroke. Everybody wants to start a YouTube channel, have 1 million followers. But the most important thing is the process, is making sure you are doing the right things, you are getting into the right habits to help you get to your end goal, whatever that may be. So just making sure you're focusing on the process, which will then ultimately help you get to your desired outcome.
And the journey, it's not just the process. The process is what lays the foundation for the journey that you will follow. So if you want to be successful in not only swimming, know your why, be obsessed, love the process, because that is what creates the journey that allow you to swim for life and reach your goals.